Good evening. Thank you for coming out this evening. I appreciate very much your attendance, whether it's in person or online, as we try and have a somewhat candid conversation around the way we treat each other in our community and what we want for our students. I think that we can all agree that what we want for everyone in our community is that everyone is treated with dignity and respect at all times. And what we're aiming to do this evening is have an opportunity to listen. Listen in the name of trying to make sure that we're being as sensitive and as aware to the needs of our neighbors as maybe we need to be. What we're not here to do tonight is engage in what I would describe as political debate or division. The truth of the matter is there are those who are only able to maintain their place in politics and are only able to be successful as fundraisers by making sure they keep communities divided. We know better than that in this community. I've seen it time and again. And whether we're talking about the flood that occurred in 2018 or Winter Storm Uri, the way I've seen the heart and the love and the compassion of this community come together to take care of neighbors indicates what we're supposed to be all about and what we try to be all about when we're at our best. The truth is sometimes we're not our best. And it's in these moments it's worth taking a second to pause and listen and try and be better. That is essentially the goal of this evening, to listen. To listen to those who might have something to say to help us be our very best, not just within our families and not just within the world in which we swim, but with all of our neighbors. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto yourself. That tends to be something that we agree with. And so how do we do that well? And that's what we hope to accomplish this evening. We'll be listening to our panelists, who will be introduced in just a moment by our facilitator, but I would like to take this moment to introduce to you the person who's going to guide our discussion this evening. Tonight, leading our discussion and seated right here is Caitlin Puckett. She is the district social worker, but in addition to that, she's a lady, she's a female, and she is the proud parent of a black boy. She has a perspective she can bring to this discussion that some can't. And in the name of listening and trying to have a heart of empathy, I felt like she might be the best person to facilitate this. I asked her, I said, do you mind doing this? She said, if you really want me to. So she is, and I want to tell you on the front end how much we appreciate you for talking us through this evening. I will wrap us up as we get to the end, but at this point I'm going to hand the mic to Ms. Puckett, let her introduce our panelists, and we'll get our evening started.
All right. Like you said, I'm Caitlin Puckett. I'm the district social worker, and I just appreciate you guys joining us for this conversation as we work towards a community of unity together. I'm actually going to have the panelists introduce themselves. They're the best people to introduce themselves. They're the experts on themselves. So I'll have them do that, and if they just, whoever wants to start, go for it. I think Miss Bessie wants to go first.
My name is Bessie Jackson. I have been in Marble Falls for 42 years and 2 months. The reason why I know that is because we came in February. I have been on the school board for 8 years in the past. The Granite Shoals City Council for 13 years. I retired from HEB Pharmacy as a pharmacy tech, and I care about people. I do a mission outreach, and I retired twice. We do a mission outreach where we make 1,500 plates a month to the community. And just for good measure, 5 of those people that we feed are black. So I'm a community person, total community. You need to understand that. I'm here because people didn't tell me the whole truth about the matter. He didn't say I was gonna be up here. But I know just about everybody in here, so we good.
Age before beauty. Age before beauty. All right. Well, my name is Fermin Ortiz. Thank everybody for coming. I hope you have interest in our discussion. America is the greatest country in the world.
That's right.
In the history of mankind. I came here from Puerto Rico, not knowing a word of English. And only in this country could I have had the success, or the success I define as success, in America, nowhere else. Now, having said that, everybody can improve. America can improve. Racism doesn't have a color. We can be brown and be racist. We can be black and be racist. We can be white and be racist. We can be racist against each other, even within our own demographic. It expands all over the place. The only thing I would ask is that we all can have a clean heart and understanding that beyond us, there's a higher being and a higher calling. And if anyone believes that, then we have to remember that in Acts 17:26, we're all of the same blood.
Amen.
All of the same blood.
Okay.
And then, as what I would call my Christ has beckoned us to do, love each other.
Amen.
Love each other. Now, calling each other names and such as that is not in any way loving each other. Some could argue, what's the point? It's just semantics. It's no big deal. Well, if you were a product of your parents not ever getting married and you were raised by your mother, would you rather be called a product of a single family home, or is being called a bastard okay?
Exactly.
It's not okay. It's just semantics. It's not. So we should be talking to each other with respect and love. We're no better. I am no better than any white man, but no white man's better than me. We're equal, at least in the eyes of my God. Thank you.
My name is Calvin Richard. Been here 17 years, originally from New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina was nice enough to send us this way. You cannot pick out Marble Falls on a map and say, hey, let's move there. So blame God for me being here. You can't blame that, in any kind of way, but been blessed to be a part of this community, and it's been welcoming us since we first got here. I own Veris Fit Transformation Lab. I've been serving this community for 14 years through business. And, it's not just a business for me, it's a ministry in the community. And like I said, know a lot of faces here as well. And it's interesting, I've had a lot of conversation with some of the folks here, because a lot of you have mixed kids and mixed families and mixed relationships in different forms of fashion. And you're the folks who feel what we all feel. I would love to have seen a lot of our other leaders in the community who think they're not the problem, or think it exists outside of them because, they got that black friend, and it makes them okay. But it's interesting to see that the folks that I've had conversation with through the community who don't think they're an issue or think they're a problem, they're not here. And I don't know if they're going to listen or hear at any point in time, but I've always welcomed uncomfortable conversations. And as we talk this, if it's anything in your mind as we're talking and you say, I don't know if I should ask that, please ask those questions. That's how we move forward.
That's right.
In regards to understanding culture shock, I went to all black male Catholic high school in New Orleans. Okay. I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, where I was the only black guy on the floor of 45. And I looked around and I was scared. And it was different. It wasn't that for my livelihood or anything like that, but it was different. And I had no idea at the time that as I heard nothing my RA had to say, or I was thinking about where I was going to transfer to, and this is different from what I'm used to and where I go. But something in me said, you know what, this is what corporate America looks like. I'm probably going to be the one or few minorities wherever I go. Let me see if I can figure this thing out. And it wound up being the best experience I've had those, I'll say 5 years, because I earned an extra junior year while I was there. But it was amazing, the maturity and change. And I had no idea that being in Pittsburgh was preparing to be in Marble Falls. I'm very comfortable in my skin as far as who I am and my identity in Christ and my identity as a black man.
Amen, amen,
and
amen.
being from New Orleans. So I don't like the Dallas Cowboys. It's okay.
Watch out.
So
Supposed to be
that made me more problems than racial stuff. I'm just saying, they could very well. So,
real.
but that's the part of I think welcoming conversations, because typically we watch the radio news station that confirms our bias already. We have echo chambers of voices of the same people that we, either vote the same way, hang out the same places, go to the same country clubs, and a lot of times we're shielded from that. And so when I say I welcome the conversations, I can remember even in Pittsburgh, like one gentleman who was from Idaho, and before he got there, he knew one black guy his entire life. And I said, if he was the one black guy at your school, he probably wasn't that black. But he had questions, just curiosity. It's like, please ask the questions. Simple stuff that you think. There's some folks here that have a black child, like, I don't know what to do with the hair. There are cultural differences, and I may or may not have pulled up to their store and handed off some hair grease, and there's differences. And so I think it's beautiful that we embrace that there are differences. When people say, I don't see color, I know it's a nice PC thing to say, but we all see color. We all see, I know it's different these days, we typically can see male or female. So let's embrace the fact that this is what we see. And in fact, let's get to know what those differences are and what those similarities are. And that's what I like to welcome in our conversations.
Thank you guys for that. And I just want to take the time to thank the three of you for being here and joining in this conversation with us. And like Calvin mentioned, it can be uncomfortable and it can be difficult, but we are really appreciative of you taking the time to be here with us tonight. So I'm going to move into the questions that we have for you. Like I said, some of them can be uncomfortable, but we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to learn, and we want to listen. And so the first one is, we're just going to kind of jump right into it. And if you would please share with us some of the experiences of racism or racial insensitivity that you've experienced yourselves. Racial insensitivity, I have an example from yesterday. A person made a joke to my child that didn't want to carry his own water bottle, that they could put a rope around it and put around his neck. And it was a joke, but didn't even understand what they were saying. So that's kind of what we mean with racial insensitivity and then racism. So if you'll just share your experiences with us, we'd really appreciate it.
You want Marble Falls experience or my Dallas experience? Dallas experience, I'm the preacher brat, and my father pastored in Grapevine, Texas. And not knowing, I was not liked because we lived in a black neighborhood. The insurance man and the man that used to sell the stuff out of the back of his car, that was the only white people that was on our street. But my father never told me anything. So 21 miles from Dallas to Grapevine, we used to go, church was all day long. This stuff y'all do now, this ain't church. I don't know, y'all get away with murder. But we went to church at 9:30 in the morning and we came home at 9 o'clock at night. So we didn't have, at that time, people used to take you to their house and feed you and stuff. But on those occasions, we would have to go to the Dairy Queen. My daddy always went to the back door, but I never knew why he went to the back door. I turned 14, going to high school, and the high school was just about up to the corner there, but they bused me 15 miles to South Dallas. All of the black schools had to go over there, Booker T. Washington, James Madison. So I went to high school for 5 years and I didn't flunk now grade. I didn't get that extra course because of the fact that I was not allowed to go to that school. Coming up the hill, memory came when President Kennedy was shot. We had to walk up that road to catch the bus because they had that color and white on when you caught the bus. So you had to go back behind that to catch the bus. That particular time, I'll never forget. We came to Marble Falls. I have always trained people, I just always trained white people to be my boss. Because the ones I encountered didn't know a whole bunch, so I had to teach them how to do whatever. But they made the money while I did the work. So we going through all of this stuff, and I said, I got to do better. And there was this little old white lady in a wheelchair. I bet she was old. She was probably my age now. But she wanted me on my hands and knees to clean her kitchen. I said, Miss Mary, I said, the kitchen is clean. The floor is clean. She says, no, you don't understand. I want you on your knees. God is so good because I wanted to kill that lady in that chair. But God said, no, 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 no. I knew then that I had to educate myself to go to the next level. I didn't want my kids, $25 a day in car fare. I didn't want to have to go through that no more. Then I proceeded to educate myself. And I went to college at 28 with 5 kids. It was not easy, but I did it. And school was important because I knew I had to pass those grades. Come tomorrow Falls, I give them a portfolio this thick with all the certificates and all the learning. That lady said, you know, you people work at the sewing factory. You people, oh, they need somebody at Meadow Lakes. They need a salad person. Okay. Well, by this time, I'm pretty discouraged. So I said, okay. So I start out the door. What kind of salads do they make? She said, as a salad person, I said, anything past lettuce and tomato, I don't know how to make it. I ain't no cook. I know how to do business. I know I can type 110 words a minute because I done been to college for that. Charles Hunley, superintendent of Marble Falls ISD, saw my portfolio, and I've been moving up ever since because I have applied myself and applied myself. I'll never forget when they decided to make me a pharmacy tech. I can't spell aspirin, and they gonna make that's not gonna work. But God in His divine thing, you type 4 of the letters of the medicine on there. All medicine that start with that comes up, and I was able to do that. But then, more than anything else, to help the little old lady from Pasadena find where the preparation H is, that was my job. I had to make sure that whatever they came in, whatever they needed, I had to make sure that I could take care of them. As a whole, Marble Falls is a great humanitarian place. Like he was saying earlier, how do they come together? The church, 130 years old this year, has been sustained by this community. By this community. I've had ups and downs, but then I had to remember the era that the people that's negative toward me, that's the way they was raised. That lady touched my hair. Oh, I thought your hair was hard. That's what they told me. It's like steel wool. I said, now you know better. So you can't categorize everybody in the same boat. You have to do an individual thing, an individual person. Okay.
Okay. Well, I had a unique experience. I came, as I said, from Puerto Rico. Our Spanish is a little different than the Mexican that's spoken or Spanish that's spoken by the Mexican community. We sound uppity, kind of like British English against American English. And so I was prejudiced by the local Hispanic community because I did not speak the way they spoke. I got spit on by the white community because I was too dark to be with their son and play sports with them. We also had my father, might ought to mention this, my 5th generation back grandfather was a slave being brought over to the United States. He jumped off the ship and swam onto the island Puerto Rico with chains on. We're quite proud of him, and I'm very glad he did that. But my father looked very, very black, as American blacks do. He was always thought of as a black instead of a Hispanic. And my mother has had hazel eyes and light brown hair. So they couldn't, even though they loved each other, could not hold their hands in public because somebody would stop. My father lost his arm in Korea. He had 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. He was a heck of a man. But he couldn't even fight back, and these people would stop and harass him because he loved this woman. My wife and my marriage during my lifetime would not have been legal in a lot of the United States until 1967. I celebrate it every year, June 12th. That's when Loving versus Virginia was passed unanimously by the Supreme Court. Now I can love my little redhead, blue-eyed wife anywhere and everywhere. So that's part of what the underlying things happen. And it's not always blatant. I was speaking, I was a Republican Party chairman, and I was speaking at a conference, and someone in the back voiced up, "No hablo inglés." I am not as strong as the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I offered him to step up because I was going to teach him a lesson in civics. And fortunately, he did not. He was too much of a coward. And so I didn't embarrass both of us and make my lovely wife mad at me. I was at here, the local tax office. I had just finished, our family's got a ranch, and I was out there enjoying the beauty and the work. And I had just bought a work truck, and I thought, I better change that title over before I forget. So I thought I'd, treat myself to a nice lunch in town and then go by the tax office and do the forms. I walked in, the young lady had my driver's license and mispronounced my name. It's not that hard. If you think of fair like I try and be, and mean like I try not to be, fair, mean. It's all I had my whole life is my name, so I wanted to hang on to it. Well, she proceeded to tell me that you're an American now. I was like, what? What? And right then, the judge, which was her boss, walked in. She says, "Hey, Fermin," comes running up and gives me a big, I'm a hugger, came running up and gave me a big hug, and you should have seen the look on that woman's face. She thought she was about to lose her job. All of a sudden, I was Mr. Ortiz. That's not right. I'm the same person in a suit or in a tore-up T-shirt. Shouldn't treat me differently. Those are the kind of underlying racist things that we do as a society. Again, it's just a matter of understanding each other and knowing that money, nor suits, nor nothing makes us any better or any worse. I could go on and on about examples. I was at a rodeo, and I rented a booth, kind of expensive. I felt pretty good about being able to afford it. I had our name on there, Ortiz. And I came walking up, and some guy was sitting there, and I said, "Excuse me, would you mind if my family and some other friends were joining us if we had our spot?" He says, "Why don't you go back where you came from?" It was crazy. Anyway, my point is, it's still there. I know we like to think it's over and good times and hoorah, hoorah. It's still there. And as long as we as parents don't teach our children that there is no difference. That's right. One of my children looks a lot like me. One of them looks like his mother. And Paloma came home one day and says, "Dad, what's a half-breed?" Somebody had called her a half-breed. And I said, "Baby, you're not half of anything. You're the 100% of the best part of Mom, 100% of the best part of me." And that's the last conversation we had on that. I didn't want her to understand that there are people that are so insecure that they have to look down on somebody. Someone wiser than me once said, some people like to leave a mark. Unfortunately, others like to leave a stain. Please, let's leave a mark.
That's funny. I love when I hear that. Go back where you came from. Like, I ain't never been to Africa, so.
There's not to have.
I've never been to Mexico.
I'm like,
Go back. Yeah, exactly.
They got flies. I'm not going.
I think I agree with what Fermin said as far as racism is more subtle, unless you're in an area where it's more prominent. We saw a lot when we first went to the Lumberton area. It was a lot different there. I didn't realize until we left about Silsby and all the stories and things like that. But we got some looks in going to the Dairy Queen and going to the Bells and things like that was what I wasn't used to seeing in a while. But things are more subtle. But some things are more blatant. So back in 2015, at my former address in Burnett, near Kingsland, right next to my former church, there was a cross burning. And this is 2015. This was 2 blocks from my house where my 3 kids and wife all live. That literally in 2015, we still have burning crosses in front of churches. No one was caught. It didn't seem to be a big deal to pursue that situation. And not saying that could have came out. I just in a small town, somebody knows something that somebody did. The fact that no one says anything or said anything was pretty, pretty hurtful to see happen. That no one would have come forth and say anything about that situation itself. You think about the safety. You think about, if they're doing this, what else will they do? Especially if it wasn't caught. Is it going to be in my yard next time? Is it going to be someone throwing something at my kids? I have no idea. But when it's not not addressed or not caught or anything like that, then you have those concerns. As far as I have conversations with my kids. Two of my kids graduated from Marble Falls. We have one that's a junior right now, and I ask them what kind of experiences do they have themselves, and I know it makes a difference as far as the personality of the child. My kids were involved in sports and things like that. They were kind of popular. It's easy to stand out, and of course they can't get away with anything because everybody know their parents.
Yeah.
But they didn't see a lot of blatant stuff because their personalities were a little bit more out in front. But they would get some things like, can I get an N-word pass? Basically, can I call you? I know it's hard in this era, that was like not even thought of, when I was younger. But now the music, most of rap was typically black folks' music, and everybody listens to it now. And I know the words are in there, so it's kind of hard to say when I pull up to the school and hear two Mexicans saying, Mexican kids going, "What's up, my?" It's just like, I don't know what to say there. There's a different part of culture that has kind of changed, but there is a difference with intention of the word. And I think that's the part where we really pay attention to the intention of the word itself, from the way it's, in music. And I'm saying I'll shy away from using it myself, but the way it's used and whatnot. But to ask a kid, can I say this? Is this okay? And I don't know I know they've never given anybody that pass, but that's one of the things that I see there. But when I see folks who used to hold office or used to be or business owners, and they say stuff on social media that is really, really bad. And then you see the 5, 6, 17 or so people that come along and, amen what they said. And he's the same person. And I've literally gone into the office to speak with them and confront them about it myself. And they apologize then, but go right back the next week, still posting the same hateful stuff. They think it's just jokes. What most folks, I know myself, I speak for myself. One way to change that is if you're their friends and they're using coarse jokes, you correct that. Mm-hmm. You correct it yourself. If you want to see the change, you're the one that says, "Nah, we're not going to play that here. We're not going to do that here." If any of your kids are at my house, I'm going to be dad. I will put my life on the line for your child. So that's part of where I would expect at least somebody to care for my kids or care for another kid in any form and fashion. Not just about, racial stuff, just period in itself. But that's the whole part of where we used to be. It takes a village, and the village is here. But the village also corrected wrong behavior. And so the things that I feel where my kids don't see it as much, I hear enough from some of the parents here and some of those that are not here about their experience. And I feel that it's my obligation to be able to speak up and be a voice in those particular situations, because some of them may not be as forthright or have a voice. And I think that's part of us being able to be voices in the community for those who are not able to or don't have the boldness to speak up. So that's what I see in more of the subtleties. And obviously there is, as we talk about using certain particular words, there's ignorance that's, we understand you really don't know, but some stuff you need to know better. And how do we correct that? Is where I'm at.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing those experiences with us. And I think it's important to call out that we do have to take responsibility and stop things in their tracks when they're happening. So thank you for bringing that up as well. The second question is, most would agree that we need more education and awareness related to racial insensitivity. What would you say are the two most critical topics or subjects about which we need to raise awareness?
Get to know me. When I say me as a person, we sing the song at church. If anybody asks you who I am, you don't tell them I'm Methodist, I'm Baptist, I'm this. I'm a child of God. When they ask you who you are, you alluded to earlier that there are a lot of mixed children around here. They're still people. They are not responsible for who their parents are, so you can't punish them for that. They have the same right to be successful regardless. What do we need? The next thing is, don't accept those negative things. Don't laugh. Because if you laugh, you're a part of it. That's you giving consent for them to do that, and they just go back and do it. And Marble Falls is unique in the fact that it's kind of like sit away. They don't realize what's going on across 281 this way and 281 that way, because of the fact that when you come to the big cities like Austin and all those places, them people don't be playing with you. You get your life took away from you. You need to be sensitive enough to understand that they're people, and then let them be people. When I go to a store, they watch me like I'm finna steal something. I got my 15 cents to pay for my cookie. And it's so obvious that you can feel it. You can feel it. You can tell when them eyes is on you, and all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 people walking down the aisle that weren't on there. They don't have no shopping carts either. But we are distrusted because of what has happened in the past. Allow us as a people, all of us as a people, to be a people. Don't make me guilty before I commit a crime. And because one person still don't make everybody a thief. Realize it. Let people be people. And that's unique about Marble Falls, because most of the time, they've got that undercurrent stuff. My daughters, maybe I shouldn't, I'm gonna say it. My daughters had to whoop a couple of people on the basketball team because they had been doing this so long. No, not these people. We're different. We're not going to accept that. And they got to be the best friends. They graduated 20 years ago, and guess what? They still friends on Facebook because they got to be friends. Don't judge me until you walk in my footsteps.
One of the things I always found very, I don't know, I shouldn't say funny, but I'd give people a hard time. I speak Spanish. I enjoy, my native tongue is Espanol. And so when I was with family or anything, and we speak Spanish. And I always cracked up when a racist would say, "You're so stupid." And I'd say, wait. I speak 2 languages. You're butchering the hell out of one. And you think you're smarter than me?
Duh.
It just always cracks me up. That's how I try and deal with this type of racism, because I don't want to get angry anymore. I'm not the kind of man that, and I don't mean to sound weird, that people walk up to and just insult. They don't. They do the little side stuff. They do it over here. They do it try and do it to your friends or something, but they don't get in your face anymore. That's the subtle ones hurt more. I won't say respect, but I'd rather somebody walk up to me and call me whatever they think they have to call me, and we just settle it, than to think that somehow they should look down on me for whatever reason. That hurts much more. That's what I like about us having an opportunity to talk. I do think one of y'all is missing. We should have an Anglo person standing up here, sitting up here with us, because we shouldn't be preaching to y'all. We should be having a dialogue, talking together among each other of how we can be better as a community. When I was asked by Dr. Stewart, James Stewart asked me to draw up the lines for the Highland Lakes Elementary. I didn't know he'd set me up. But anyway, I'd have calls at home and have somebody say, "Mr. Ortiz, I don't want my child going to that school. Those Mexicans can't learn."
Yep.
And I'm like, did you see my name? Even though I'm not Mexican, that's a Hispanic name. Do you really think I would agree with that?
It was a big fight.
And I was so proud, and I'm still very proud, that Highland Lakes Elementary, for the first however many years,
Yes,
just did
yes.
exceptionally well.
Yes, yes.
Regardless of the 87th percentile economic disadvantage and minority. One of the things that was done, and we all agreed to, was volunteer the best teachers to go out there. Ask for volunteers. Don't do a punishment thing to send the bad teachers to the bad school. Give these kids a chance. And they did exceedingly well. And Marble Falls is a fantastic community. At some point, I'd like to talk about what happened here recently and how that was allowed, how that came to be. Because whether we want to say this orientation or communication is about that or not, it is. Because what those kids did to a young lady that just came down here to enjoy a sport was hideous. I got a call from one of the top guys in the Hispanic community and asked me, what the hell is going on in Marble Falls? Swear to God. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was in New Mexico in our little cabin enjoying our lives. And I get this, I was like, what? I could not believe it. Now, I'll be frank. Kids can do some stupid things. I was a kid. I did some really stupid things. That's forgivable. But where were the adults? Why didn't somebody call time out? Stop this foolishness. I know that I was told, shouldn't say I know, that a single child was held accountable. That was a lot of noise coming from one child. How many adults should be held accountable? Because it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as adults in the room to help our children understand right from wrong. There is no right way to do the wrong thing. We have to set the example. We have to show our children what love and compassion is by loving them. If you don't do that consistently and then kids think they should mock somebody simply because they enjoy a sport, it's just wrong. And I'm sorry, I know that wasn't part of the questions, but at some point we need to address that.
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, I'll say it to the same order. When things come up, like currently here and what we dealt with in the past, as well, once it's highlighted, I think one of the things that's concerning is that how much stuff is not being caught and how many things are actually being done that we don't know about. Because what I see a lot is, man, that's terrible, but I'm not surprised. We hear about what happened in Marble Falls about certain things, but people say, but I'm not surprised because this happened and that happened. Stuff that we don't hear about, stuff that happened before I got here. And people mention things like that. And so having a conversation with someone saying, you know what, if I was to have a conversation with an African-American family who is considering, man, that Marble Falls looks really pretty. It really looks nice out there. Can you tell me about it? What would you want me to say about my community? With all truth and all integrity, what can I say? Beautiful lakes, great people, but every now and then you're gonna have some racist stuff going on. I mean, can I say that it's a most welcoming community? I mean, it's been a great experience. I love it here. However, somebody coming in and asking, what would I say about it? And that's a concern. And what can I say about what's going to change and how things are going to move and how are we going to proceed and moving forward is the question. I know I'm okay with being in the fight and being boots on the ground with this stuff like this, but not everybody is. Not everybody is. And so that's the concern is, what conversation would you like me to represent? What can you honestly say to a family that's coming into this area or is interested? That's something to really consider. What's the precedence? What is out there? And once again, I do agree. I know there's a lot of, I didn't hear it. The situation, I didn't hear it. It was nothing there. I know God does a good job of not having me around in those kind of scenarios because I probably would have stopped the game. I would have stopped the game and grabbed the mic, or don't need a mic, and addressed it. And I just wish that someone, if they legitimately heard and, did hear it, I just find it very hard that I can hear a video and it's very clear that someone didn't say, hey, cut it off, cut it out, something, stop something. But it was nothing brought up until later when it got,
Publicized.
yeah, it got in the public. And we've had various situations like that where it's not addressed until you caught with your pants down. And we've got a history of that in our town. And so I would like to see those kind of changes in that area.
And that actually does bring us into the next question, which calls out that incident that you guys are referring to. Most people in here are probably aware, but if you're not, the district recently had a situation related to students or a student making monkey noises while a black athlete was shooting free throws. And we know that there have been similar incidents across the country as well. Can you explain some of the history or emotions behind why making that sound in particular is so offensive?
Degrading, automatic degrading. You see all this little paperwork up here? I was doing my homework. I thought I was going to be sitting on the second seat. Did my little homework. All of us bleed red blood. There is not a separate operation for me, and it is for me, and I'm a female. You know that's different. Organs are all the same. If we as a people would validate that, first question comes with that. Why did Marble Falls staff not say something? Why did they let it go on? It had to be somebody should have been there. Hey, we don't do that here. Why did it take so long to address? Now, I had numerous calls. Did you see it? Did you hear them? No. Marble Falls is prejudice. My next question was to them is, what would you have done in that incident? What would you have done? We need a solid results to that situation. And I've said this for many, many days. Different strokes for different folks. I have had kids tell me they're not going to do nothing because they're rich. I don't know who they are. They're not going to do nothing. They're going to just wash it under the bridge and hope we just forget about it. But we cannot afford to do that. We cannot afford not to do something. And do something with teeth. How many weeks did we come down to change the policy with all that stuff of 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever? Trying to put stuff on paper to try to make it better. We got to put some teeth in it. You got to be accountable. I don't care if you teach or you sweep the floor. You need to be accountable. All the time. I tell my child that same thing. You need to be accountable. If you did it, then you need to fess up to it. Now, the other thing is Marble Falls is very, very embarrassed. How many people are going to have their school come here with their black players to play ball? I'm not taking my kid. I'm not letting my kid go over there. Because they're going to be harassed. They're going to be did all this stuff. We have to look at that. It always works for the whole community. One person messes up everything. What can we do? What can we do for this problem with everybody judging everybody? We can't do that. We can't do that. We're not going to be rude or put a fist on them.
Why'd you point to me?
We're going to love them. Because that's what you would have done. We're going to love them and we're going to show them God's way.
Amen.
It's an old thing they used to have a wristband. WWJD. What would God do? And if we don't ever come to that, we're going to still be in trouble. The problem is taking too long to clear. The community needs to know what we're doing because they already figured out, y'all ain't going to do nothing. School district ain't going to do nothing. We need to do something. We need to show some tangible changes in the system. Being on paper don't mean nothing. Somebody got to have some teeth in here. We got to look up and do what we need to do. This man came to the pharmacy one day, and you know me, I'm laughing and carrying on, and he said, I want you out of here because you're black. And it kind of threw me because I mean, he was standing in front of me. Okay, sir, can I help you? No, I don't want you to do blah, 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 blah. Call my manager, come over there. So I go upstairs, like, what's my protocol for people harassing me for whatever reason? He came downstairs, he told Mr. Man, don't you come in my store no more. Solid. He knew he couldn't come in and harass me. Of course, I had everybody go into the car with me when I left to go home. But the thing was, he did something tangible. We have to do something tangible for this situation. We need to let everybody know this is not going to be accepted in this community. We are one. We are a community. There were some incidents that went on prior to Christmas. It was ugly. Y'all know about that? Y'all don't know about that. Don't nobody know. Because they kept it on the cover and let it go on. It's time to stop. And I don't care if they black. It's time to stop. We can't blame nobody. Everybody needs to be accountable for their actions. Sometimes you don't know what the person is going through at home, in their private life. It needs to be stopped right now.
Amen. I'm just concerned about this young lady because, again, as an athlete, you just want to have fun. Play with your teammates, enjoy life. It's not about statements. It's not about carrying a banner. It's not about charging through a fire. It's about just having fun. Did anybody call this young lady personally and apologize? Do we know? I wanted to. And I thought, it's really not my place. I should have. And I still am. If anybody has her number, I am going to call her. I know she went to Lanier. I have a lot of friends in San Antonio. I'm going to call her. I would ask y'all to consider calling this young lady and apologizing for what our community put her through. You weren't engaged, you weren't involved, but she needs to know that that's not Marble Falls. And we got to realize, guys, it was her today. It could be me tomorrow. It could be you the next day. We've got to stop it. Got to stop it now. There is no room in our society. And I love Marble Falls. We own the athletic club over there, and I wouldn't be, the athletic club would not be a success without Marble Falls. I know that. It's got nothing to do with Marble Falls. It's got to do with some lack of parenting, a lack of accountability. We owe it to our children to teach them better. Because these young people only watch what we do. And if we don't do it the right way and hold people accountable immediately, they're going to decide, like some people have, right or wrong, decided that if you're a certain individual, you get away with it. If you have a certain amount of monies, you get away with it. If you're a certain intent, you get away with it. I mean, we had a football coach tell a young man that wasn't very good at football, that was Hispanic, that he should just go play soccer like his people do. I mean, what? And he wasn't reprimanded. He wasn't called into the office and reprimanded at all. We've got to stop this. We can meet, we can talk, you can hear us. It can be hollow, or it can be, beneficial. But it's got to get all the way through to the kids. That's the final answer. I mean, when I was a kid, we all had a blast. I mean, there was no difference when we were out there playing. It's only when the parents showed up, get away from that, and then call me a word, or that other kid to call him a word. That's when the problems arose. It was not when we were having fun. So it's up to us. And I hope y'all would consider and call me at the club. I'm going to get her number, and I'll be happy to give it out. And I'm sure she'd appreciate it, because that's just a young child that was, she said, very hurt by what she felt that day. In our community, right here, no child should feel that way. I don't care from where they're at. Competitor, local, no child should have to suffer what she did.
Well, so when the incident first happened, of course, there was probably a voice in the back of the head, oh, no, we're going to hear Calvin's mouth. And I refrained from posting anything out of respect for this man and the work we've been doing already, and said, okay, I'm here. And I offered to be there to go and be an ambassador to go to the other school if we're going to do public apology. And I believe it was a public ordeal, that a public apology should have taken place. And I don't know what all happened, but that's my feeling. Like I said, I would love to have been a part of that if that was going, and if it still takes place. I have love to be a part of that. Why that sound is a problem. So if you look at history, black folks have been called apes and baboons, and we're more like apes than human. If you look at, there were scientists and researchers of the time, the best doctors of the time in the not very long ago, the 1900s, would hold a skull of a ape and a skull of a black man and say, you see the slant of the head and how it's shaped and everything? They're more like apes. So they're subhuman. They're not real people. So let's continue to treat them this way and treat them as subhuman, because the science says that that's who they are, and they come from, the whole, it's funny, if we all came, evolved from these apes, I guess y'all didn't do that. I mean, it's just only black folks who evolved from me. I don't know how that happened, whatever, the missing link or whatever, but we all, those who hopefully don't believe that, but anyway. But this is what was told. The propaganda around Jim Crow laws and Jim Crow time was black men are rapists. There's billboards and posters and things going all around the community letting you know, be careful, because this is what black men do. It was called interracial relationships that they didn't want to see. It wasn't rapists, but that's what the propaganda said. So once again, these are savages, and they will take you and do these things and rob you. So this is the propaganda that was going on around the leaders of the community, the specialists, the doctors and whatnot, are literally saying we are like apes. So when you hear those kind of references, you probably have seen a few movies. You think about
King Kong was one.
Well, with Denzel, the football movie, Remember the Titans, when the coach was talking, said, I'm not giving that ape any of the plays, and he threw a banana at him at the end, which was pretty clever. But that was the connotation. That is the negative connotation, that black folks are monkeys, apes from Africa. This is where we come from. Go back and be like the monkeys and the apes in Africa. So it's sensitive to that. It didn't make sounds of a tiger. I don't know. I'm about to say a giraffe, but I don't know if they make sounds. It was specifically a monkey sound. Now, to choose that sound itself, in my mind, it's intentional. With intention behind that, I'm saying the wrong thing to this person, because let me back up. When you're around a lot of folks who believe what you believe the same way, you have a little bit more boldness. I've experienced that at Duquesne University, where I was in authority. I had a position as a RA at the time. I had to write a gentleman up, and he literally said, I can't believe it. We're sitting out here with all these white people, and that Calvin in there thinks he's this and that, and thank God I knew I cost too much to go and do something about it. But the boldness of course, a little bit of alcohol, and you add in the fact that I feel supported by my people. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he didn't know I had a reputation that was okay, and that he was alienated because of what he said. So I didn't have to fight that. But we have that in here where if we're all the same and we're all looking alike, and I can say what I need to say because they're the minority and they don't have the power. And that is the mindset that I believe we need to be able to move away from. So specifically that sound, that reason, it's why if you didn't understand why, you can do enough research and see where that science said that we're like a monkey. I'm not monkey at all.
Come from Darwin.
Yeah, Darwin and all that
Darwin.
stuff.
Thank you for helping us to understand some of the history and emotion behind that incident that occurred. We're going to zoom back out to our last question for tonight, and then I'll pass it back to Dr. Allen, because we really want to get at the heart of how do we move to a community of unity and healing rather than continued racial division. So what are ways that, and you've already mentioned several things, but what are ways in which we can begin to demonstrate healing and unity in our community rather than division?
It's got to start at the top. You have to be firm in all that we do. I'm the mother of 5 biological children and 1 adopted kid. Totally different, believe me, from my 5 to that 1. Totally different. But if you say what you mean and mean what you say, and do it. Just that simple. Don't allow your friends, they used to allow me to do Black History presentations in February over to the elementary school. And some of the kids are basically honest until they get to the 3rd grade, then they change on it. To the 3rd grade. So I'm talking about coming over on the ship and all of this stuff that went on and all this stuff. And the hands went up. I said, let them ask the questions. Did you come over on the ship? No, I didn't come over on the ship. Well, I couldn't go to the store and try on clothes. Couldn't put on hats, couldn't put on wigs because it was not allowed. Well, I tell them, so I said, you don't understand. The Jim Crow law he was talking about, it was against the law. We have to change the law. We are all people. We have come from, maybe y'all just gonna get upset, I'm just gonna say it. We didn't come from all the way from Africa to the presidency of the United States of America. And he's not a dumb man. I come from West Dallas. I'm not a dumb woman. Give me an opportunity, give all of us an opportunity. Now, I can't be no newspaper person because I can't spell good. But take what you got and use it and make it for the best. This is our neighborhood, just like Calvin said. It's all of our neighborhood. The fight that we were having in Granite Shows about the school, we don't want that school over there because most of Granite Shows is Hispanic. Because I think it's me and 1 white person stay on Greenwich on my street. But we get along fine because they my neighbors. They my neighbors. They take care of me because I'm out there doing my yard. No, you shouldn't be doing that, neighbor. That means they care about me because I'm their neighbor. Care about your neighbor. I don't care where he come from or where he's going. One lady, God bless her heart, her mother was dying. We in the parking lot praying. She didn't look at my color. We called in on her Lord because we had a relationship. You need to have a relationship. The old Indian thing says, don't judge me till you walk in my footsteps. Don't judge me till you walk in my footsteps.
I think that I'd like to know what y'all think would be the solution, because we're not experts. What we are is just living examples of rising up or whatever you want to say. I mean, I got 45 stitches on my body, and it wasn't from hitting a pew on the way to confession. I just heard for so long as a young child that I was worthless and never going to amount to anything. Then I got really good at that. And then I had a teacher, Mrs. Clark. She saved me because she understood that there was a good kid in there. And she made me believe in me. That's what we need to do. Get these kids to believe in themselves. Set the example as a parent, as an adult. When you see these things going on, intercede, and say, kids, hey, no, that's not going to work here. It's not. You can't call each other these names. You can't try to put each other down. My kids couldn't afford to be prejudiced. We're Heinz 57. We have every possible race in us. So, you know, that's what the mentality has to be. We're all of the same. I just keep saying that. They're like, one of my favorite people here, by the way, you ought to hear her sing Amazing Grace. Man, I'll tell you what makes me cry. But we are all of one. We are all of one. And if you don't believe that, then I can't help you. But I believe that, and I think we should teach our children that, and then we'll have even a better country. Like I said before, America's fantastic. When you compare us to all the other countries in the world, we are fantastic. Can we improve? I certainly hope so. I know I can. So let's just try and improve each other and help our kids improve. That's all I can say is the solution.
I've got two words: curiosity and advocacy. Curiosity to seek to understand. You remember that whole 2020 era when everything was crazy? Folks don't really know how many conversations that I had behind the doors, closed doors, with leaders, business leaders, spiritual leaders, all folks with the community. I think we had more conversations surrounding race relations like my entire life in that period of time, more than running and operating my business. A lot of it was, I don't understand. Can you help me understand? And once again, being eager to learn and understand and find out what my heart was or what's going on. And I won't say any names, but folks, should I post something? I don't know. What do you think I should? You do what you normally would do. Don't do something because you need to do something because it's the right thing to do. I normally say stuff, so I'm used to saying stuff. But the curiosity and the conversations, and some folks who stood to even engage in a public format lost members of their church and lost members of business and lost certain things because they were saying things that were right but was frowned upon about the community in different ways. So I think that part of continuing to being curious to understand, seek for the change to happen is part of it. And when I say advocacy, one of the things I think you were mentioned to was it happened in Slayton, Texas. I don't know what that's at, but young black girl who was making complaints and saying, I'm being harassed, I'm being this, and she's saying it constantly. No help, no advocacy. And eventually she got enough was enough, and she fought back and fought a boy. She was the one who got all the problems. Right. She was the one who was put in, what's the?
Epic.
Yeah, the epic version or whatever it has. She was the one that all that. After being several times, this is what they're saying. This is what they're doing. I mean, calling all kind of apes and monkeys and all the things. And I'm playing basketball. I'm balling on y'all and clean. And all these dumb left the balls out again. These are the comments that are being told. And she's saying, please stop saying that. Please. I mean, literally confronting, but in action, telling authorities, and it wasn't addressed. And so when she had enough was enough, if someone would have been an advocate for her, someone would have stood in there for her and stopped that, nipped it in the bud because they realized it was a problem. And the reason why I say that, because I've spoken kind of what we've had before, was it last year, of the similar kind of things happening here. There wasn't advocacy. My certain individual son was being harassed, but nothing was, so, just if it happens again, just let us know. Oh, it can't be that bad. There is a difference between just straight bullying and racial bullying. There is a difference. So we need to be able to understand that. But the curiosity to learn, as for me said, I'd love to hear from you all. I've been black most of my life, but I'm not the ambassador and spokesperson for all black people across the planet. But the fact is that let's have the conversations. Like I said, the things that you're wondering or whatever it may be, but at the same time, the same things that you're learning or understanding or getting a better understanding of, that you are advocate and speak in the community for those folks who hold firm on some old thinking that doesn't quite fit what this new economy.
I'd like to add one thing. Mm-hmm. If we can never, ever hear that N word again, I think we'd be better for it. Whether it's in joke or in communication or in song, let's just leave it off. Just remove it from our conversations.
I tell my people, You will not use that word. I think we had in a little conference. Oh, well, it's okay because she said, she called me one and he called me. I mean, it's back and forth and they're doing all. Do not use that word because it means, okay, we can just say it. Ain't no big deal. No, you cannot. You need to erase it out of your vocabulary. Well, what do you want to be called? Bessie. Don't make me no Republican, don't make me no Democrat, don't make me no Baptist, or all those things. I am a person. What's your name? Bessie. If we learn to call people by their name, rather than whatever we go through.
Can I still call you Miss Jackson?
Now, if you don't know, Fermina and I worked really hard with Morpho's ISD to get that, is third grade, to go through that swimming.
Okay, y'all. Couple things. First of all, I want to tell you that I appreciate you talking to us tonight. You'd made a comment about, we're missing an Anglo up there. Tonight was a night to listen, really. I mean, Anglos have been talking in this country for a really long time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that was somewhat intentional, okay? And you've all also talked about the need for continued conversation and to ask questions and be curious. And the discussion about how to make us better has to continue. Tonight is step one. You have to understand before you seek to be understood. And what we're trying to do tonight is increase the level of understanding. I too have been asked questions by the community about why is this upsetting and why has this been so difficult and why are people so mad? And I've had to say, guys, that action, that activity, it's terrible. And for people to not necessarily understand the history, Calvin, that you were talking about, part of the reason that we invited you to be part of this is to help make the point that this is not the issue of racial discussion in our country. It's not something that happened 100 years ago. Like you said, 2015, that's the recent past, the very recent past. Mm-hmm. And Ms. Jackson, you've had enough years on earth to where there's a lot of stuff that our kids are learning about in textbooks. Jim Crow laws, 60s, civil rights movement. We celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday. My dad remembers going to segregated schools. And my dad's just a little bit younger than you are, I'm sorry to say. I'm not picking on you publicly, but my point is...
December the 1st, I was 80 years old. Thank you, Lord.
But my point is people think of this as that used to be a problem. You remember where we've been, how far we've come, and how important it is that we not go back to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That those that would keep us divided and who would like to keep this stuff
boiling.
Yeah, and when I say that, I want to be careful. I'm not making it like we still have to confront issues. It's not like we should duck from them, but there are those who use this stuff for their own purposes, and there's a whole generation of young people, of the people we serve in our schools who are kind of confused. To your point earlier, Calvin, about stuff in music now that, like I listened to rap when I was younger. Now I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. I don't know exactly how old you are. I turned 50 this year.
I'll be 47 in
all right,
2
so
weeks.
we're not that far apart. Like,
I mean, you're real old. You are real old. It's okay.
oh gosh, she's not old. She's a person, Calvin.
Full disclosure,
but
I'm 66.
you know what we were listening to, rap wise, and the degree to which the N word and the filth has increased, and yet is mainstream, especially within certain. Like the culture, like the locker room culture and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's confusing and difficult. I'm not making excuses for people. Y'all don't hear what I'm not saying. Yeah. But our young people live in a time when if we're not listening, if we're not trying to have these types of conversations, if we're not trying to help people understand the hurt's real, the pain's real, I remember my great-grandmother referring to the lady who cleaned her house as the colored lady. Like that's in my memory, and I'm 50, but I'm only 50. I like to think it's young, but there's a point here where we have to continue to wrestle with these things if we want our community to be the best place it can be, and overcome those who would keep us divided by leaning into the issues. Yes, sir.
Does anybody out there have a question or thought they'd like to share? Because, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Sarah Featherling. I'm sure pretty much a lot of you know me or you've seen me around town. You brought up some good topics, and I would like to say personally, I would have liked to have seen, and I do have a daughter who, goes to school there. She's an amazing kid. She's a great athlete. She did everything, I guess the right way. She's an easy kid to parent. But I will say that I was in the stands when that game situation happened. I was very upset that I didn't see an assembly. The school had a prime time to gather kids. You came back to school. Why was there not action? Your words, sure, legal jargon. You talked to us at the next home game, and it was nothing. There was no heart. I'm looking for heart. I need it too. I need to see that my community cares about everybody in the community. We had assemblies when I went to school here. I went to school here. I grew up here. This is my hometown. We had assemblies. Where was that? Why were we too scared? I know the legal side and what you couldn't do, but you could have sat and you could have brought the kids together and said, because this stuff is taught in the home or it's not taught. It's not taught because the parents say what they want and the kids just repeat what they hear. Little kids will do it too because I would pay attention and I've been around it and seen it. It's heartbreaking. That's how you know it's taught in the home. We can't change every parent's mind, but you are the influencers. In that situation that happened in your school, this is the time that you can make a difference. And they're asking, that's what he said, action, words, action.
So I'm gonna speak to that. This is not a Q&A night. This is a night to listen. So let me just say that, okay? But I am gonna speak to that because the fact of the matter is, at the very beginning of the school year, and I'm gonna give you a fairly long answer, okay? But at the very beginning of the school year, we pulled every student at both the middle school and high school and specifically talked about these issues as part of work that we did last year to try and make sure that we're educating our students and trying to hold them accountable around these topics. In addition to that, we actually gave quizzes around these topics to make sure our kids were actually paying attention while we were talking, okay? We had the incident that occurred in November, and then when we came back from the holiday break, there was a reset with our students on these behavioral expectations at the middle school and the high school. The administration has talked to us about putting those pieces in place. The other thing we did is the Friday, I can remember the exact date, the Friday after that event, we had a complete lesson within our social emotional learning coursework on bias and why the events that we've been dealing with are such a challenge. And so we've done work with our students on this, and it's ongoing. It's ongoing. So you know that we're legally prohibited from talking about specific action taken on discipline with students and with personnel, but I think the fact that we're doing this tonight and that we've essentially put a mic in front of people and said, share your story, and have not tried to, manipulate or otherwise control the narrative, demonstrates a commitment to trying to hear the truth. There is not a sweeping under the rug. There is not a ducking of the issue. There is not a secrecy. We need to have a conversation, and so we're trying to start that by first making sure there's a chance for folks to speak about what's on their heart and what's on their mind. So, y'all, I appreciate you coming out this evening. It's been a night that I think that we have many things to think about. I will tell you, I'm going to stand for a minute. I will tell you that Calvin in particular, we go to the same church. And he's got a student not a whole lot younger than my kid. I actually help coach the summer basketball league. I have asked Calvin very candid questions. Like, hey man, help me understand what I'm doing here. Explain to me where, and y'all, I grew up in a mostly black school. But still, the world has changed and society has changed. And I'll ask Calvin, man, tell me what's going on here. And he just talks to me. He never gets upset or offended or frustrated with me. We have other people on staff who are of color, and I'll ask them. I will say, is this the right way we're supposed to be doing this? Am I, in my own ignorance, about to do something that might be offensive to folks? They never get upset. There's like, no, you're fine, or I would reword that a little bit, or like whatever. It kind of depends on what the communication is that we're trying to push out from the district. Because you want to talk about things openly and honestly, but in the process of talking about it, you also don't want to accidentally like step on somebody's toes, right? It usually has to do with terminology. When I was growing up, we called folks African American. I've been told recently that Emmanuel Acho says we should call them black. I'm so confused. I like what Bessie says, just call them Bessie. That's great. When you're talking about a group of people, that's sometimes hard to pull off. By the way, I live in a world where I'm supposed to specifically track data on the achievement of kids who are one ethnic or racial background versus another. So we end up in these terminology discussions. I'm like, I want to be the most sensitive I can. So I say all that to say this. We have to continue to do work as systems, cities, school districts, employers. We have to do work as systems. But the most powerful thing that I've heard tonight is it is a neighbor to neighbor, conversation to conversation, interaction by interaction movement. Can I talk about the rest of what you shared earlier? So Caitlin told a story earlier about a person who was making a comment about, well, just tie this rope around your son's neck and he'll carry the water bottle around. What she didn't tell you was the second part. She politely, kindly, and lovingly told that person, hey, I get it, that's kind of funny. Making comments about putting a rope around the neck of a black kid's not a good idea. And that person responded well. Didn't get upset, didn't get mad, didn't call her woke, didn't label or identify, or just said, oh, okay, I didn't mean anything by it. And in that moment, there was unity. In that moment, there was something that was a mistake. That mistake was addressed kindly, not in anger, in love. Tell the truth in love. And then that person took it well. Is every person going to take it well? No. But we can lean into these things, right? And so we have systemic work to do. We're going to lean into things as a school district. We have work that we know that we want to continue to accomplish. We're committed to doing some things. But at the end of the day, what it takes is everybody, neighbor to neighbor, person to person, interaction to interaction, trying to be the best version of ourselves we can possibly be. And so I leave you with that and hope that it's an encouragement to you.
Let me ask one question, because it has been just over and over and over. They continued. Open the door to all of the naysayers. Let them come and explode, say whatever they want to say or whatever. It is not that we're trying to keep things undercover, because that's the thought that comes. Oh, y'all had a meeting down there and y'all didn't dum. If you shut their mouth, then they don't have nothing to say. Give your meeting monitor, your DVD. I like this right here. Cut. Don't say no more. Make a meeting where everybody can come out and voice their opinion and say whatever they want to say, negative, positive, indifferent. And then you will have hushed that part, and the success of the next meeting, whatever else that you're going to do, might come out better.
Yes, ma'am. We did some of that last spring.
Yeah.
You remember, it's not the first time I've heard Calvin speak, or you or others in our community. We try to get everybody to come in, and we'll continue at those efforts.
Yeah, if they don't come, it's on them.
Well,
yes, ma'am. It's on them.
Well, Chris, I do, Dr. Allen, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I want to thank everybody for coming with an open heart and open mind. And I hope you got something out of what we're trying to share and didn't see what you didn't like to see, and that's just people being honest about the experiences we've had in life. We're not blaming anybody. We're just asking for an understanding that we're all the same. That's all.
The single
thank you all
most
for the opportunity.
powerful unifying force in the world is love.
Amen.
That's right.
Oh.
So,
Love is not love until you give it away. That means you got to love somebody.
that's true.
Go ahead.
Amen.
My door is open. I'm open to conversations. Anything I know this wasn't a forum for that, but if any way could help in any form or fashion, I think not the education system in large, not just here, does it injustice to that. Think about your history of what Black history looks like. Folks-
February,
Ca-
Black History. He did have to say that.
Mm-hmm.
February is open for Black History at St. Frederick, 301 Avenue N. We got all community stuff and we got national stuff.
Yeah. I ain't gonna say that, but it's the shortest month of the year, but that's neither here nor there.
I was
But
waiting on it. I was waiting on it.
it's like, just give us something. No, but here, think about it. You hear Blacks were in Africa, Middle Passage, came to America, Frederick Douglass, you know, George Washington Carver,
Tubman.
Harriet Tubman, maybe that, maybe, and you hear Martin Luther King, you hear about the Civil Rights Movement, and we had a Black president. Done. That's about all we get to hear. And so if, by me being in a place where teachers said, you know, close your books, and I'm gonna play this video about Emmett Till, so you can learn about this. Close your book, let me tell you about my grandpa, my father. Yeah. We don't get that, and I understand we don't get that, but I've been asked even at certain schools, hey, could you come in and speak about such and such? And it doesn't happen. So I would love to be used in some form or fashion. Like I said, not the voice of all of Black America
Right.
and all, but
Well, Marble
I can
Falls
help.
did a great thing. We used to have a multicultural. That means that Fermin and me and y'all could all come out and show your wares and your ethnic whatever and all that stuff. It is a lot of different people in this community. We had Italian sausage and all of this and that. They came and danced and did all kind of things. But everybody came together to splurge on their ethnicity. They wanted everybody to know who you are. This is just great. I mean, if you just let everybody come in, do it in a positive way, not just February or May. I think it's Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, that. but it comes. Well, how come white people don't have this and white people? Well, you can come and celebrate with us. I don't have no problem with that. Okay, I'm done.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate everybody who watched online. Thank you. Help us be better, y'all. It'll take a team effort. Good night.
Thank you.